Welcome to this month's episode of the PA Path. I'm Emma Sellers with PAEA. We would like to give a big thanks to this month's podcast supporter, the University of Pittsburgh School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences Doctor of Medical Science program. I'm delighted to have Diamond Means and Chiamaka Nwokeocha as our guests. Diamond Means is a proud graduate of Fisk University with a BA in biology and a dedicated pre-PA mentor. Currently a second-year PA student at the University of Pittsburgh hybrid PA program, she is passionate about community service in low-income areas and is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. One of Diamond's professors wrote, "Diamond embodies quiet leadership, resilience, and kindness, qualities that are evident in her engagement with faculty and peers and in the quality of work she produces." Diamond's decision to join the University of Pittsburgh hybrid PA studies program and her continued positive contributions have made this program better than it was before her arrival. Chiamaka Nwokeocha is a first-year PA student at Morehouse School of Medicine with a passion for healthcare advocacy, health equity, and community engagement. She loves connecting with others through social media, using her platform to educate, inspire, and empower future healthcare professionals while keeping it real and relatable. One of Chiamaka's professors wrote, "Chiamaka is a very kind and humble person. She works hard to ensure the class is ready for each professor to teach. She reaches out for questions to ensure there's understanding of the content. She wants to become a PA to help her community, and she is a wonderful individual and student." Well, Diamond, thanks again for just joining us today. And anytime we get to have a student join us, it's always a pleasure. So we are just excited to hear more about you and your experience as a PA student right now. Before we get into much, tell me a little bit about yourself and your path to becoming a PA student.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you all for having me today. I really appreciate being able to be here on the podcast. So I graduated in 2022 from Fisk University, and I applied during the cycle of the PA school 2023 to 2024 cycle. I've received 5 interview invites and 3 acceptances, and I accepted a seat at University of Pittsburgh, the program which I'm currently a part of now. I'm a second-year PA student doing my clinical rotations at the moment. I'm currently on my psych rotation. And what kind of brought me into the PA space was a mentor of mine. She knew I was on the pre-med track originally. And during my sophomore year in college is when she presented me with some other options because I had uncertainty about whether or not I wanted to go to med school and pursue that path. And so she brought up the career of being a PA, and I did some research on it and ultimately fell in love with it. And from there, I made sure to take the right steps on being able to be a great candidate. And then I started off being a certified nursing assistant. And from there, that's how I kind of gained experience before I applied to PA school.
Diamond, I love it. The power of a mentor to get you, kind of thinking about different things, getting you on the right path and just, opening your eyes to other options. I love that. And we talk in great deal about mentorship and just the role it plays in everyone's life, but particularly students in the PA journey. So, you mentioned being a CNA and some other things on your path here. Once you get that C behind your name, what are some things that you hope to do in the PA profession, either as a clinician in the community or, how do you see this shaping out for you?
Yeah, definitely. One thing in undergrad that was requirement for us, anyone that held a scholarship, was community service. So it's a requirement for us to do 50 hours minimum each semester. I think that's a lot of HBCUs require some sort of service that students have to do. And so while doing that, I was able to actually be involved with the community and people that had different experiences, cultural experiences that were different than mine. And those were some things that I really appreciated. Even a part of my sorority, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and that's something that's always at the core of our sorority. And so just being able to be involved with different initiatives. I also was a part of a nonprofit that promoted awareness for pulmonary hypertension. And so I want to incorporate those things when I become a PA, being able to give back to the community, making sure that I can give out health literacy for individuals who may not have that, and also health awareness in different things that affect the communities that I'm a part of as well. So I want to be able to do that, maybe even start my own nonprofit, but ultimately just making sure that I'm in those spaces of giving back and a part of those different conferences and things like that, that I can make sure that I can strengthen myself as a provider.
You're leaving me speechless. I love it. I'm grateful to hear just again that spirit of community service, giving back. And I know that you do that in different ways, even now with your program too, in helping pre-PA students with the interview process and even really serving as a mentor in your own ways as well. And you mentioned that you had multiple interviews, multiple acceptance offers. Can you talk about your experience as a student going through the interview process to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so the interview process, I would describe it as very competitive and it can be overwhelming. I went in not really having much knowledge of anything, but one of my friends who I really consider as being one of my mentors now, she was already in a program. And so she was able to give me some tips and just be able to guide me along the process through the application because it can be a long time, months long, and from just even applying all the way to even getting the interview offer. And so there's a lot of different things that you have to prepare for and anticipate for through the interview process. And that's why I wanted to be a pre-PA mentor from my own experience and knowing how difficult it was, just so that students can know that there's other things than just making sure that you answer the interview questions. There's other things that's to it as far as appearance and how you should appear. Making sure that your demeanor, especially on a Zoom platform, it could be a lot different than in person. You have to be able to navigate those spaces a little bit differently. So for me as a student, it was a lot of learning through the interview process more than I anticipated on from when I applied for college applications. So just a different experience that I had to kind of redirect in a lot of ways just on how I can make myself stand out to the faculty and staff at these institutions so that I'm able to secure a spot.
You're dropping so many nuggets for our pre-PA students. One thing that you just said that I think would really stand out to folks is it was very different than your undergrad application process. I think that sometimes folks, no matter where you are in your professional career, I've done it before, it should be just like this. And it's a whole different beast, in some ways, in that mindset. Like you said, you had to redirect and think through that. So I know that you do some work with pre-PA students to help them prepare for the interview process, really pulling from your experiences of having multiple interviews, multiple acceptance offers. Can you talk in great detail about the way that you work with pre-PA students and help them with the interview process or help guide them through the process?
Yeah, so there's a few different things that I do. Previously, within this past year, I've worked with the PAEA with the virtual affairs and hosting different interview sessions to be able to give students different tips and tricks on how they can strengthen their interview process. But outside of that, just a few pre-PA mentees that I do have. I typically go through the process quarterly, just making sure that they have everything in a row as far as their experience, what experience they are doing. If they're having any struggles in those areas, how can I be a resource to them to be able to pull from my peers that I already know or other PAs or doctors that's willing to let them shadow and just using my own internal network, seeing how I can help them. And then from there, what I typically do is seeing what areas are their weaknesses. So if they did apply for a previous cycle, just kind of keying in on what are some things that might have weakened it in their application or might have been some holes that might have could have been a little bit better. And from there, we can take that to make those strengths and being able to change it and how we can make those differences for the next upcoming cycle. And then a lot of things just kind of keying on just making sure you're doing a lot of mock interviews. A lot of people always say that, but it is something to really consider to help build students' confidence and just getting you prepared to be able to answer some of those difficult conversations or even some of the repetitive ones, such as making sure your elevator pitch is very good. Because a lot of students don't necessarily know how to tweak that to make sure that it's short and concise or just keying in on all the actual important points that they want to touch on. So making sure that students are prepared in all of those different areas and touching on all of the different components that I think is important, which is being prepared, your confidence in appearance, and also just your content of your responses. So making sure that students understand that those areas are important and we can narrow down on how we can better students in those areas.
I love it. You work with students to give really detailed, thorough explanations of what they could experience, and how to really go through these processes. When you think back to your experiences, did you have both in-person and virtual interviews? And if so, what was the main difference in those?
Yes. So my first interview invite was in person, and the other ones were virtual. So I think that was around the time where a lot of schools last year was just figuring out whether or not what kind of worked best for them post COVID. And so the first interview that I did was in person, and it was completely different because when you get there, you walk in, it's a bunch of other students. You really don't know how you can engage with them. But one thing my mentor made sure to tell me was that once you get to the parking lot, make sure that you're shaking everyone's hand. Be able to speak to everyone, even if it's a janitor or if it's the program director, whoever it is, or other students. Make sure you're speaking to them. Have a smile on your face at all times, just so everyone knows that you want to be there and that your presence is going to be a happy one. And so that was something that I took with me while going into that interview process. And that was my first acceptance. And they let you know the same day. And they only told, I think, like 10 of us that we were accepted. And it was out of 40 students. And so that was really what I took away from that. And I remember at the end of that interview, when they told me that I was accepted, the one thing that they said was that how confident I was and how dedicated that I was to all the initiatives I was a part of with my answers. And they can really tell that I genuinely really wanted to be in PA school. So the first step, even when you are going to an interview, is making that first impression with everyone because you never know who's looking and who's going to have an opinion on anything. And it kind of goes back to how they say, don't judge a book by its cover. And I think that that's really important because some students, you can be anxious. So you kind of get in your head even while you're walking into the interview process or in the common spaces where you have to wait before you get interviewed and you might not say much or anything. But I remember a lot of people that I've talked to during that interview process and some that didn't get accepted, but we still are associates to this day that I can still talk to like, hey, like, what are you doing in your program? Or, being able to use them as resources in the future because we all ultimately probably will be PAs. So I think that's really important for students to just take importance of just all the other factors that might key in onto the interview process outside of just answering questions.
Yeah, it's not just what you're saying in front of the select group of people, but to your point, I love from the moment you pull in the parking lot, everyone could be a part of your interview process. It's something very keen for people to take with them. And then the other point you made is that, you are going to meet people throughout this interview process who may or may not make it into the program, but you're probably going to see them again somewhere. So you're starting even there to build those relationships with colleagues. So Diamond, you have already again dropped so many nuggets and good tools for people. But if you had a few pieces of advice or, a quick message that PA students and pre-PA students could just keep with them, what would you leave them with? Or maybe it's something you share with some of the students that you're working with through the interview process.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would share is that the path is not a linear one for PA school. Everyone comes in with different backgrounds and different strengths and different experiences that I think that you really need to try to figure out how you can incorporate those into your answers. Even just simply as when they ask you something like, what was a struggle that you had and how did you overcome it? You can try to key in an experience that you already had done, even if it was just simply doing research, which a lot of students may not have done for PA school because it isn't a requirement. You can hone in on one of those experiences and be able to make it into a positive and let it kind of showcase your own character. And so I think that's important for students to know that just GPA and test scores aren't everything to the process and that strategy is important. So whether or not you do have something that is important that you've experienced from just something simple as a sport or anything, you can just incorporate that into your response and incorporate that as to who you are. And also making sure to show your character and personality when you can, whether it's wearing a certain blouse underneath your suit jacket. One of my friends said that that was the key thing that the program director said they remembered her by was that her pink blouse with flowers on it. So making sure that you can kind of be yourself through the process and just take it all in and that just know that maybe you have to try once or twice just to get in and that's okay. So I want students to understand that the process isn't linear at all, like I said, and just keep trying and it will happen for you like it has happened for everyone else in the process.
Diamond, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your time with us, your wisdom with us, and your experiences. I know that the pre-PA students, the students, faculty, staff who are listening will all get something from this. So again, just thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you and keeping up with you as you continue and finish up your PA program. And of course, ultimately become the clinician that accomplishes all of those things and give back to the community that we talked about earlier. So thank you so much.
Of course, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Let's take a quick break for a word from this month's episode supporter, the University of Pittsburgh School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences Doctor of Medical Science program. Influence the PA profession by joining an educational program that focuses on quality improvement in your practice. The University of Pittsburgh offers a 1-year, 100% online Doctor of Medical Science program for practicing PAs looking for that next step. With 3 start dates available in January, May, and August, you can feel confident in selecting a program that offers you the most flexibility for your life and career. See what's possible at Pitt. Reach out to an enrollment specialist today at www.shrs.pitt.edu/DMSC. Well, Chiamaka, thanks so much for joining us today. I am just excited that you're here anytime we get to hear from students and their perspectives. It's always energizing to me and to the profession. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Well, the first thing that we got to get to know you, right? So can you tell me just a little bit about yourself, your background, and your path to PA?
Okay, well, my name is Chiamaka Nwokeocha. I'm from Macon, Georgia originally, and I'm also the oldest of 4. My parents came here from Nigeria, and they always instilled the importance of education, so I've never taken, school lightly. However, I feel like with that, they also tried to kinda, choose my profession for me. So it was a big it was a big push since I was in high school, like, "Okay, doctor, 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 your sister, lawyer, 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 your brother, engineer," type of thing, you know? But at the end of the day, I still wanted to, be able to do something for me, by me type of thing. Even though I genuinely had an interest in medicine, I just never knew exactly how that would play out for me. So for undergrad, I went to Georgia State University. I was a public health pre-med major while I was there. Loved it, enjoyed it, and I really did enjoy the public health aspect of it, just being able to help communities at large in different aspects, and I really did like epidemiology. So following my bachelor's in public health, I ended up getting my master's in public health from University of Georgia and hopes to become an epidemiologist. So I was like, that's still medicine. I'm still here. I still like it. But as time, went on, I also was just trying to figure out other things that I could, possibly go into. So I pivoted a bit into the tech field. I pivoted a bit into the education field, but I felt like at the end of the day, medicine just kept calling me one way or another. And it did remind me back in undergrad, I did go to a career fair, mainly for medical schools, but there was one PA program there. I went up to them and just trying to figure out what the field was like and things of that nature. But I did hear that it was a very competitive field to get into. So I was like, maybe I have a better shot at medical school than PA school, so let me just stick to medical school, but that's never been where my heart has been personally. So after my master's and after deciding I really don't really want to go into epidemiology, especially after the whole COVID pandemic, I was like, where, do I belong in? One way or another, just asking, in prayer, for guidance. PA popped back up into my life. I started taking on any extra prerequisites I needed because as a pre-med, I didn't take anatomy and physiology and a few other courses. So I spent a year, and that was from all of 2023, taking all my prereqs, doubling up on them, while I'm still trying to get my hours for PA school as well, in hopes to apply in 2024 to begin 2025. However, I had a lot of people encourage me, you've already done so much, you might as well go ahead and, at least attempt to apply now. So 2023 fall is when I decided to apply, just to get a feel of the CASPA application cycle and everything. I applied to one school, and thankfully I got accepted. It was a very joyous day because, Initially, I was on the wait list. So I was like, oh, it could go either way. I was very nervous about that. But eventually I got pulled off the wait list and I began my journey in May of 2024 as a PA student at Morehouse School of Medicine.
I love it. So, not necessarily the direct path that some students might take, but nonetheless, in the exact place you are supposed to be. Absolutely, absolutely love that. Tell me a little bit. So, you're at Morehouse going through obviously this, intense program over the next couple of years. What do you hope to do? Where do you see yourself as a PA? Maybe you're thinking about it right now, but what do you hope to do?
Honestly, I'm very open right now. I'm very excited for clinicals in general. However, I do feel like I will want to begin in more so of a rural space. Here at Morehouse, I am part of like the rural track. So during my rotations, they could send me off to Maine, Kentucky, Tennessee, places of that nature. But being able to like help in places that need the help more so than others, is where I'm really like leaning towards. Like even in classes now, we were talking about like a potential case, but like even thinking about like colorectal cancer, somebody could be like in an advanced stage by like age 50, and it's because they didn't know that they could have been screened at like 45 or 40 if they had, family history. So being able to like educate people in these populations and in these areas so that they don't advance into cancers and, more morbid conditions, I think is going to be something that will really touch me at the end of the day. But yeah, overall, just helping in that rural space.
I love it. And to me, I'm going to pull out, it sounds like a little bit of educator in you. So maybe we'll pull over into the education, getting you back in the classroom at some point. Always will do that plug. So no, again, all good stuff. And one thing, of course, with the PA profession is the world is wide open to what it is that you're able to do. You shared that you found out about PA school kind of through a fair. You applied to one program and you got in. Talk to me a little bit about your experience going through the application process, the interview process with the one school, and what did that feel like, to kind of put all your eggs in that basket?
Honestly, it was pretty nerve-wracking to begin with because prior to even considering going to PA school, like I said, I was trying out different other sectors, tech and education, especially like in the tech field. Like I was very active on LinkedIn. So like I would apply for a role, hear back and say, okay, well, you have an interview coming up. This is how much the salary is, type of thing. And, we can't wait for that interview. I'll tell my mom and she was super excited, like, oh my gosh, this is what we've been praying for, da da da. And then I get ghosted type of thing. So I don't want to say like I just started like lowering my expectations, but essentially that's kind of like what I did. I got tired of feeling like I was disappointing my parents. So when it came time for me to apply for PA school, I did not tell my parents. No one knew except for like my siblings and my close friends, just in case, like, so if I didn't get in or anything, it will just be an internal thing that I'm dealing with instead of like having my parents and everyone else know about it. So it was very intense because I'm taking all these classes. My parents knew I was taking classes, but that was to apply like the following year. So I'm taking classes, but I'm still also creating that application, reaching out to current students, reaching out to my professors, trying to get everything together and tailored on the CASPA application. And the thing is, like, I also did try to apply to another school, but I did not know that like the certain colors on CASPA like noted like what you have to submit for this program versus another. So me thinking, oh, I have this time, I can submit by this date and it'll count. It didn't count. So I was very sad about that. But thankfully, I was able to submit everything for Morehouse in time. But yeah, it was just a lot. Thankfully, I didn't have to retake the GRE because I had already used my same scores for my master's program. So that was very helpful. But ultimately, it was stressful. Like I was taking so many classes and I had not done that for a while. Like my master's was more so like writing a lot of papers, but now I'm back taking organic chemistry, microbiology, psychology, all the courses that, I was like, maybe I should have taken these in undergrad, and just had it out the way. But at the same time, I felt like it pushed me more. Like it was like, okay, this is something that if this is, the role, the program I want to get into, let me like put in the time and everything. Because in undergrad, I was not getting straight A's or anything in these science-based courses. So I took biochem before applying to PA school, and I got an A in it. And I felt like that was really like the push that I needed to be like, okay, I can do this. So it definitely wasn't easy, but it was very rewarding when I finally like told my parents at the end of the day, like I just showed them the acceptance letter. I was like, here's the letter, and they're like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm going to PA school. So it was very exciting, and I'm just thankful for everyone I had in my corner during that, like, because to me it was like a dark period, just trying to figure everything out, to like keep it under wraps and keep me like contained while, going through everything.
No, I appreciate you being so open about that. You highlight what I'm sure so many people, so many students do experience. I mean, it's pressure. It's nerve wracking. Who do you tell? Who do you share it with? Having kind of gotten a no or being ghosted, in so many previous times, and you want to make your parents proud, no matter where you are, in life or what stage of life. So very real experience there. When you got started with Morehouse, the process, was your interview virtual? Was it in person? And how did you prepare?
The Morehouse interview was virtual. It was their last virtual. This cycle is when they first introduced back in person interviews. So it was completely virtual. Preparing for it, thankfully, I had a good friend at Meharry named Jade. She really helped me to like relax and like actually like show my personality in a interview, because initially, I guess I was very surface level, like, yeah, I've done this, but she knows me. So she's like, I know you've done this, like, talk about this. I know you're passionate about this, bring this up, talk about it. So I feel like that really helped me out a lot. And then also through her, I had other connections from Morehouse. So like talking to these students about their interview processes and things of that nature really helped me to figure out, or at least navigate like what I should know. Let me study the website, make sure I know the mission, look at all of our professors and, everyone that's at the school, and just have a general idea of who I might be interviewed by. But also just knowing that overall setup of the interview day was very helpful from those previous students, because we didn't know about the setup until like the day before the actual interview. So it was nice to already have that insight from them.
You mentioned the impact of connecting with students at that program and having that insight. Can you just share a little bit more about that? Just the importance of that, or even how you might now do that for others?
Honestly, I feel like that was the biggest aspect for me to like even continue and push on, just having like community. So thankfully, like while I was not applying, I already had a friend who was also considering applying. So she already added me to like the groups, like pre-PA group me's and things of that nature. In the group me's, you see students who are going from pre-PA to PA students who are telling their journeys and encouraging the rest of us not to give up, and knowing that, if we have any questions, we can reach out to them. So that was very helpful. And then it goes even deeper when they're applying to like, or if they've been accepted to the same school that you're considering. So I learned a lot from them also about like how to create like a playbook. I have a playbook on my Google Drive of like all the schools I'm anticipating on applying to. Which courses do I still need for each school? What's the minimum GPA? How many hours? So even when I'm talking to current pre-PA students, I encourage them to do the same thing. Join the groups. If I'm already in a group, I'll add them to the group. I've shared my playbook with students so that they can see what I did in order to like narrow down my school. So hopefully that can help them. But overall, I just don't think this isn't a journey that anyone should take alone. It's hard for you to do it alone, but like by knowing somebody or just by listening to somebody or having a bit of insight, it can make a world of a difference between you getting in and sometimes you're not. So, but at the same time, it's not like everyone gets in on their first or second try. But at the same time, it's nice to have someone in those chats to tell you to keep going, because eventually you will get in. They got in, type of thing. It's very helpful.
The power of community and not giving up and having that group of folks to kind of push you through that. You've already kind of started talking a little bit about, how you might work with other people or advice to give. But if you could leave a pre-PA student who is, finishing the CASP application, gearing to start going through these processes, whether it's virtual, in-person interviews, what are, 2 or 3 just solid pieces of advice that you would give to any pre-PA student on this journey?
Some of the things I would advise is, for one, to dress the part, but still like stand out a little bit. So while everybody might be dressed in like a nice, suit, a little pop of color here and there doesn't hurt, or, just show your personality through one way or another. For me, I think I kept it pretty neutral with like wearing black and white, but my hair was like, something that people could just start a conversation about. So I feel like that's important. It's also important for you to like, ask great questions that'll like really help the faculty to remember you. Like, wow, that was a great question. This person said this. That's really important. But also it's important not to like step on too many toes while you're doing it. Like, because at the end of the day, you're going to be working in a group setting. So you don't want to like overtake the entire interview each time if y'all in a group setting. Give everybody the opportunity to speak up. If someone isn't speaking up, encourage that classmate or encourage that individual, like, oh, do you have anything that you would like to input? Things of that nature can go a long way, because the interview, they're looking at all of that. They're looking at you as a whole. How are you going to be able to connect with the rest of your incoming classmates, or could you not connect with them? So I feel like those are some really big things that I would recommend any student to do. And also just know that while you are being interviewed, also interview them back. Like, it's a two-way street. I feel like that's something that sometimes we're so nervous. We just want to say the right answers and stuff for that school to like accept you. But at the same time, it's vice versa. You want to make sure this is the best program for you at the best time for you too, because sometimes, people are just like, dang, I wish I could have started this program last year, this, that, and the third. But you never know why you necessarily didn't get in. It could be a blessing in disguise. It might be like, there's a better cohort set out for you, So I'm very thankful for the cohort that I'm in, so you just never know. Like, things work out the way that they are meant to work out.
Things do always work out the way that they're. So, I mean, that's a very good thing, a very positive note to leave with students who are going through what is a very stressful time. As you have highlighted throughout your process, just the application, keeping up with the dates and the prerequisites and things of that nature, but it always will work out. So to keep going. Chiamaka, thank you so very much for being with us today and just sharing your experience and your wisdom with the listeners. We have pre-PA students, PA students, faculty, staff, and I know that each one of them are able to pull a little something from what it is that you said. So I look forward to following your path and seeing all the great things that you do and seeing you in PA education in a few years. I won't stop that. So again, thank you so much for finding time in what I know is a very busy schedule. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today, Dominic and Chiamaka, and thanks to everyone for listening to this episode of the PA Path. We would like to give thanks again to this month's episode supporter, the University of Pittsburgh School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences Doctor of Medical Science program. For more information, visit them online at www.shrs.pitt.edu/DMSC. Before we go, I'd like to highlight the pre-PA playlist on our PAEA YouTube channel, which has videos to help students prepare for interviews. Join us each month as we speak with leaders in our profession, both nationally and worldwide.